Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. It is my honor always to first welcome our guests because I know personally they're showing up with a couple of things that I deem very expensive. One is your time, Jason. I thank you for that because that commodity can be and does, are people misuse it in many ways. The other is your story. It houses pain. It houses all kind of victory, defeat, wisdom, and all of that it includes within one's journey. And we thank you for coming to us to share it with us. And I personally want to welcome you to Threads of Enlightenment and thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here and be able to share my journey and what I've learned through this process. So thanks, Ken, for having me. I feel very, very honored.
Thank you so much, sir. Talk to them, introduce yourself to them, and tell them your creation that you have. What have you given birth to? I like to put it. Talk to them.
It's a great question. I think many of us are in this world to learn and to grow, and we can choose to accept that or fight against it. And I feel that through my journey, and when I came to a point of accepting what I'm here to do on this world, on this earth, then that's when my growth and my connection with my inner self and who I'm supposed to be came about. So with my journey is I got to a point where through my own struggles and my growth, growing up in a family of 7 kids, I was able to get to a point where I felt like my life had a lot of purpose and meaning. And I felt like my life was going as good as I expected. When I thought about my life and where it wanted to be, I thought my path was envisioned with the things that I wanted in my life, what I wanted, and I think my higher power, or God had a different plan for me because of who He knew that I could be and become. So early on, my wife, and goes back to my journey, while I was on this path of happiness and joy, my wife came to me and says, I have a lump in my stomach and I don't know where it came from. So we didn't want to jump to conclusions and really freak out. So we waited a little bit. But in that week, we noticed growth in this mass in my wife's stomach. So again, we didn't want to freak out because we had to get back to our life that we were living, this prepared plan and our vision of what we want life to be like. And we found ourselves, eventually after blood work and tests, we found ourselves up at a hospital doing surgery on my wife and trying to figure out what is going on and how to move past this and how to grow through this. And after surgery, the doctor came to me in a waiting room with my wife's parents, me, my sister, and her best friend. And she looked at me and she says, Jason, I am so sorry, but your wife has stage 4 colon cancer. Wow. So Ken, in a moment of, just a couple weeks before this, we were living a really happy, enjoyable life. And then we come to this crossroad where my wife has stage 4 colon cancer. So devastating, humbling, and trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this? And during this time, I had so many thoughts running through my head. I was upset and angry, like, how could this happen to me? I was in a place where I was a clinical therapist. I was helping people heal from the inside out, and I was making a difference in the world. And how could something like this happen to me and my family when we were trying to do so much good, and that was part of our path. So it caused us to like stop and like, what do we do from here? Yeah. And I remember when the doctor came back into the recovery room, told my wife that she had stage 4 colon cancer, and we got emotional. the doctor leaving, and then I ran after the doctor down the hallway because I needed some answers. I needed some clarification, and I wanted to get a little bit of direction of where to go from here.
Mm-hmm.
And after just asking the doctor so many questions and trying to get some kind of hope, the doctor paused and looked at me and says, "Jason, you're going to be okay." And then, Ken, this is the phrase that has always stuck with me, that has altered my perspective in life, where
Mm-hmm.
the doctor says, "Jason, cancer has a way of enhancing your life."
Wow.
And that's an interesting phrase to hear when you're in crisis mode and you're trying to pick up the pieces about where your life is going to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't want my life to be enhanced. I liked the way my life was living and I was happy, and I don't want
Yeah.
it to be enhanced. So for the longest time, that drove my anger, my frustration, my resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And again, thinking, how could this happen to me? Like, I was trying to do so much good in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I have this life altering event in my family, event that caused us to think, like, what are we going to do? What am I going to tell my boys?
Yeah.
How long does my wife have to live? Like, what are we going to do to fight this? And, I held on to that for a long time. And, that drove a lot of emotions that probably weren't healthy for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me as a male, and I have a family and I have a wife that I'm fighting for, I put on a mask of like masculinity. And I just said, I gotta be strong for everybody.
Yeah.
and I gotta protect my inner emotions because I gotta be the strong person through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So as I put on this mask and begin to fight, we were given 2 to 3 years to fight the cancer. And every time we went back for a scan or a checkup, life didn't get better for us. It just continued to decline in my wife's status. And then again, I just went back and was like, this isn't enhancing my life. This is making my life so much difficult and hard. And this doesn't seem fair at all.
How was your wife handling all of that as well? Because it's, as much as it's new to you, I'm sure it's also a very traumatic experience for her. How was she handling it as you progressed?
She was 38, and she thought, this doesn't happen to people my age. This doesn't happen to a lot of people that have kids that are young, that have a long life to live. This happens, getting stage 4 colon cancer happens to people that have lived a full life. And she was frustrated that this is her life because she's so young and had so much life to live.
Yeah.
And again, her frustration was, this isn't the life I signed up for, and this is not the life I want. And I think for her, she went to our 2 boys of like, what are they gonna do with a mom that's sick, and how are they gonna face life? And she was really worried and concerned about them, and obviously she was worried about me and how I would deal with this. So it just changed everything in a short amount of time that I can never go back. And at times I wanted to, but I thought, like, how the way I'm trying to live my life has added more stress and trauma to my life. And it didn't seem fair. Like, how could this happen when I'm trying to make some good choices and this life altering event come into my life despite my good choices and decisions that I'm trying to live?
Wow. It is, you remind me of a phrase. I grew up in the church. Why do bad things? I remember reading that book. Why do bad things happen to good people? And it is a traumatizing experience as you're describing. How, as this was going on, how old were the boys at the time that this started?
Yeah, my boys were 5 and 11, so they're relatively young,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just
So how
just
did
kind of.
you, I know one of the things that they teach us in the society as a whole, Jason, is as men, we are not to feel emotion. And one of the most powerful, erroneous teaching that there is out there about manhood that I've ever heard, because it doesn't allow us to feel, to experience and go into that emotion and learn how to manage ourselves. We are forced to, as you stated, be the man. And a lot of men that are being the man find themselves in some dark places and are not able to walk out. Talk to us, Jason, as you are being the man. How did this started to weigh on your shoulders, as they say? Looking at your love, the love of your life, looking at your life, the plans that you had fall apart, if you will. The pain in your children, the pain in your wife, just pain. How did you begin to navigate and hold them all at that time, and how did you manage
Not very well, because
that?
again, so my responsibilities were take care of my wife, make sure she's taken care of,
Yeah,
make sure she's comfortable, and then another responsibility was making sure my boys get to school and make sure they're not fighting and happy, and then make
yeah,
sure that they're safe and doing well, and then as a clinical therapist, I was supposed to go into work and
mm-hmm.
feel like things were semi okay and help people with their hardest challenges of their life. And at the time, I was working in addiction recovery, and it felt like I never got a break emotionally. So the way I remember navigating it, obviously, I would pray and ask God to guide me through each and every day.
Yeah,
But I just remember like I felt like I had to be strong for everybody. And I felt like I never could get a break, and
mm-hmm.
I never could share emotions about how hard it was, because I felt like a lot of people were depending on me to ride the ship and be the captain of the ship and be strong for everybody. And I remember specifically, Ken, I would get everybody to bed. I would get everything taken care of, and then I would just sit on the couch, and I would just lay down, and I would just be scrolling on the phone, and I could let down because no one was around, and I
Yeah,
just weep on the couch because I just felt like this is so hard, and
yeah,
I'm getting emotional talk about this. This was so hard and so difficult to take on, and I would just cry and get it out, and then I would
mm-hmm.
fall asleep because I was so exhausted. And then I would wake up and I would put back on my mask, and then I'd go back to work because
Yeah,
everybody needed support. And I felt like that was my pattern for a while. And
mm-hmm.
it's not a very good pattern as I look back. I wanted to share and open up, but again, being strong was, for me as a male, being strong was more valuable than being vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's our
and and
training.
and and in contrast, being strong is being vulnerable.
Yeah,
I've learned this
absolutely.
many times,
Yeah,
because being vulnerable invites vulnerability,
yeah,
and vulnerability will invite people into your life that can help you walk this path and take on some of the weights and the stressors of the world.
yeah,
But you have to invite people into that vulnerability space. And without that, I believe men try to be really strong to push that away because they don't want people to see that side, and they don't want people to see how they're really feeling. So we put on a mask and stoic face to almost scare people away, or like, I'm
mm-hmm.
okay. Like, you go focus on someone else.
Yeah, I'm
And
in control.
yeah, and I felt like that was my mantra through this whole process. And even till and again, they gave us 2 to 3 years to live, and my
Hmm.
wife she passed away 9 months after she was diagnosed. So
Wow.
again, I put on my mask because my boys needed me. Family members were grieving and they needed
Yeah.
support. I was still doing therapy, and again, I never could get a break other than laying in my bed and just sobbing. And it just didn't seem fair. So I'm like, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to overcome my dark place that I was
Yeah.
stuck in based on my circumstances? And for a while, I felt like there was no way out. And I remember specifically, Ken, I was laying in my bed and I was just thinking, I don't want to go to work. I don't like
Mm.
my life. I am
Yeah.
frustrated and my life isn't being enhanced. It's being
Yeah.
devastated. And I remember a pivotal moment where my little boy knocks on the door and he says, "Dad, can you make me breakfast?" And
Mm.
I remember that's just a pivotal moment where I I had to get up. My
Yeah.
boys needed me. They at least needed someone there for them. And I remember making a choice where I chose not to lay in bed, but to help my boys because I felt they needed support and help as well. And we needed to walk this journey together. And we needed to figure out this together. So that was it really took a like time stamped in my brain of my little boy knocking on my door and asking for
Yeah.
help. So that was a crack in my mask of saying, you know what, holding on to this mask is not as hard as dealing with my grief. So I'm going to start to open up and start to let down my mask more and more often. And this began to be a process where my 13-year or my oldest I would come home from work and he said, "Dad, you look angry all the time."
Wow. Wow.
And hearing that was just like these little wake up calls of like,
Hmm.
Jason, it's time to invite people into your circle so that you can become healthy and you can find light again because this is such a painful spot. And then I remember, Ken, one of my biggest turning points in getting out of the darkness and reaching out for help was I went on a lunch break and I just remember sitting in a parking lot and saying, this is too overwhelming. This is too hard. So I sent a text out to my friends, my family, my neighbors, people in my church group, and I sent them a text and said,
Hmm.
"Can you come over to my house tonight? I have some things I want to share with you. I need some help." And it was liberating to send that out, but I was worried that
Yeah.
anybody would show up to my house. And then I remember being able to sit in my living room, and that's where I took off my mask and I invited people into my circle, and I just wept and I just sobbed and I just said, "I can't do this alone." And in that moment, I created a healing team that
Hmm.
allowed to surround me and begin to walk this path with me. And up until that point, people are waiting to help and
Yeah.
they didn't really know what to do
Yeah.
until I invited them by taking off that mask.
Yeah.
And and in this moment of my healing team, we created a captain for my team and we created a code word whenever things got too difficult or hard. I could
Hmm.
text my captain and my captain could spread out a plea for help and people
Yeah.
would come and help me when things are difficult and hard. And we gave people specific assignments.
Hmm.
To be able to help me, whether it be laundry, the yard, food, taking care of my kids, coming and talking to me. I gave everybody an assignment. And then whenever things got so hard, people would come and they would take away those stressors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could weep. I could share. I don't have to be the strongest person because together my team made me strong. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have to sit in the darkness. All I have to do when it was feeling dark is I just have to reach out and involve my friends and my family into my circle. And together we can get through this. And it became such a powerful and liberating moment where I could reach out with just one word and ask for help. And people were amazing to help me carry me through until I became strong on my own. And it was liberating. And I remember feeling happy and feeling joyful that I was going to find joy and happiness again. I wasn't going to be able to sit in the darkness. I knew I had answers because, again, I vulnerability invited vulnerability. And I also found the opposite of grief was connection. Yeah, and connecting with people was the medicine that began to heal my heart.
That is a powerful story. Anyone that is listening to Jason and I that are in a situation similar in the dark room, sitting there and can't handle it. One of the strongest things that you will ever do is become vulnerable. It takes a lot of strength to do that and to, as Jason said, to remove the mask and allow people in. There are those that are waiting. They don't know how to assist, but they're there and what they need from you. And it is a powerful place to be, is to see that vulnerability so that you can bring them into your space so that they can now become, as Jason says, part of your healing team. Focus on getting you out of this darkness, working with you to bring you strength, give you that joy so that you can come back into the space that you can grow even further. As you recruited this team, Jason, and they began to assist you with your healing process, walk us through some of those things, because I know you mentioned some of them, the resentment and the hatred and all of those things, which is based on that statement that that doctor had said to you. How did you begin to navigate? How did you begin to deal with some of those and learn how to manage them, let go of them, become even more vulnerable with people that are around you to help you to navigate and overcome the pain?
Yeah, it didn't come overnight. It's a process because I think dealing with men of my own is like I'll put down my mask and share, and then my hesitancy is to go back and put on my comfort zone of that mask. So it's keeping the mask off and not reaching back for it. Mm-hmm. So one example for me, because I knew having another someone else present that could ask the harder questions for me. That way I could not put back on the mask. So what I did is I took my friend, my support, he's a guy, and I began to go to weekly lunches with him. Mm-hmm. And it put me in a spot continually where I had to have the mask off. So I said, let's do weekly lunches, and I need you to ask hard questions, and I need you to sit in my emotions with me. So I gave him permission. I told him what I needed from him. And by having that weekly lunch, I could sit there and he would ask the hard questions. And it gave me experiences what it's like to have that mask off and to continue to share my emotions. Yeah. Because without that consistency and that weekly appointment, I would just go back to what I'm used to. And I can avoid people. I can say I'm tired. I can do all this stuff to put everybody away. But until I made an appointment, a standing appointment, where I had to take off my mask and get used to those emotions, that's where my growth came a lot. And I found ways of putting myself in that spot where I had to feel emotions. And what I got used to is I got used to leaning into the discomfort of my emotions.
Yeah.
And then when it was a little bit overwhelming, I would back away. And then the next time I would go a little bit farther and then back away. And I got used to feeling this on a regular basis. And I began to feel, I was building up an emotional tolerance of what I can take on. And it became liberating for me because I wasn't just jumping in and feeling all the emotions, but I was just challenging myself a little bit each time. And whether it's like, going to counseling or going in a support group or even being on podcasts where I share my story, I try to push myself a little bit more so I can feel those emotions. So getting used to it on a regular basis has been so liberating to help me feel and be comfortable with my emotions on a regular basis.
I think it's really important to have someone to hold you accountable to your emotions. And your friend afforded you that honor and that privilege. And I want to encourage anyone, again, as you're listening to us, seek that help because I am sure that there, if not friends, family, there are many support groups to help each other. We are here on this individual journey, but we are also interdependent. And that is a beautiful place to be interdependent. There's strength there. There is joy there. As you begin to push yourself further on, Jason, as you said, going beyond your boundaries, how did this growth begin to affect your relationship with your children? How did they begin to look at you and see this change, because it is a visible change that the kids will be seeing? How did they then begin to interact with you and you with them?
I love that question because when I went through my journey with my wife and then her death, my brain and my boys, I feel like, just kept replaying those sad and really miserable memories over and over. It was like watching a sad movie over and over again. And I think it was playing out in our emotions and how we were experiencing life. And I remember, like, when we began to start to be open and lean into this discomfort, we began to start to change our narrative in our head. And we began to, I think another pivotal thing, what we did is we started to do things together. Like, we created a bucket list of things to go do together. And what we wanted to do with that is to go and do things that create a new memory and emotion, and it created a new narrative to our life.
Yeah.
So when we started to create new and happy memories, and then we began to lean into that discomfort and be more open about sharing and crying in front of my boys, or even saying, "Sorry guys, Dad's having a bad day. I'm struggling." And it became more of a open conversations. So a combination of taking off the mask more and more, doing some of these happy memories where we go and experience life together. So we're not repeating that negative thought process over and over again. This began to start developing and strengthening our relationship. And my boys began to be happier, and they began to start to enjoy life better. Things weren't as hard at school or with friends, or they began to start to laugh, and we began to look forward to things rather than think back of the things that we don't have. And that was pivotal in helping my two boys get happier and healthier, is to change the narrative of their life, where they don't have to be this sad little boy that lost their mom and dad is all alone. That doesn't have to be our narrative, but that can be part of our story of how we became happier and healthier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when they begin to look at it, and myself, that's not that doesn't end the movie. That's just a
Yeah.
part of our life and our chapter to begin
Mm-hmm.
picking up the pieces and begin to enhance our life. And from those moments, we begin to start to enhance life and invite happiness back into our life by the choices that we made to begin helping and loving and experiencing life better. And when we started to do this, we started to become happy and healthy. And it became a way of life for us. And our
Mm-hmm.
relationship began to grow. And we began to have just this amazing connection and love where I thought never was possible until it was the mask that was preventing my relationship with my boys, until I took off that mask and allowed my authentic self to be
Yeah.
available for my boys. And my boys learned how to be authentic and how to be real and how to talk about the hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And that became such a deep level of emotional connection to my boys. And we began to heal together rather than suffering in silence.
That is a beautiful story, Jason. Talk to me then also, because there are other things happening within your life. How did all of this now begin to affect you in your profession? Because you're still this person that people are needing to connect, and you needing to connect to them at a deep level to assist them as well, because you're still there. How did all of this begin to affect you with those that were presenting before you at work?
You mean my clients I was working with? I
Yeah.
assume you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, I felt like in my career I could be just my authentic self,
Yeah.
and I feel like by presenting that way, and whether I said it or not, I think it was how I was, either my aura or my spirit. It People could feel that right away, and
Mm-hmm.
without even saying anything, people could feel that, and they begin to be authentic and transparent for me
Yeah.
because of a way I was showing up with, and the way
Yeah.
that I generally spoke to people, and the way that my tone of voice, and the way I looked at them, because I wasn't trying to hide. I was generally really sincere and trying to help them heal. And I could look into their eyes and see the pain that they were struggling with.
Yeah.
And I knew how hard it was because I took off my mask, and I could look into where they needed help, and I could walk them through that journey. And because I have walked through a harder journey, it made it easier to love people.
Yeah.
It made me more authentic as far as the questions I asked.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to be generally excited about their what they've overcome, because I've been there and I understood. And the way I did therapy was more just genuine and authentic. And
Yeah.
it was just, I feel like I was like we're connecting on such a deeper level
Yeah.
rather than a superficial level, because there wasn't any barriers. There wasn't a mask. I'm trying to pretend I'm someone else, because I've been through the trauma and the dark place. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I know who I am, and this
Yeah.
is my authentic self. Like I could represent, I could help people the way I wanted to, because I've been there. I know that. I understood
Yeah.
that, and I was excited to help those people. So it changed the way. I mean, up until that point, I've been doing therapy for like 12, 13 years. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I started to come into my own, the way that I was meant to do therapy, and
Yeah.
the way I was meant to help people walk through those journeys. And I mean, I love it today.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
my calling. It's who I'm supposed to be.
That's why I asked that question, because I presume that would make you even more of a more empathetic, a deeper questioner when it comes to your clients, because you've been there. You sit in
Yeah.
that darkness, and you know how to comfort them with the comfort that you have been comforted, so that it elevates that conversation, that relationship, and that client will get that, as you said, that energy, that gift that you now have, to the ability to even dig deeper and to reach into their pain and hold them within that space. And they know that you, the person that sits before them, this is genuine stuff. This is not the stuff you just read in the book and you're supposed to do this because they said this. This is the stuff that came from someone that has walked the walk, as they said, so that when you speak and release those words, Jason, they can sense it. They can feel it within their spirit. And they are, I'm sure you have seen that breath that they take, saying, yeah, someone really understands where I'm at and know how to bring me out. So as you begin, Jason, to experience all this deepness within your being, your work, your relationship with your family and friends and your sons, as it begins to change you. How did you, with all of this happening now within your life, and as you are beginning to move, and you said it earlier, and I tell people it's never easy and it's never quick, but as you began to lift your spirits and move forward, talk to me about even those dark thoughts that will still come to try and visit you, that you had to learn how to stop them, as they say. I remember reading a book that says we become godlike in this fashion, that we know how to control our thoughts, because that's where the battle is. Talk to me about some of those thoughts, even though you're moving through, that we're still coming back and say, hey, Jason, remember me? Remember me? Talk to me about some of those thoughts and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I would I'd be a liar if I don't still have them today.
I know, man. That's why I asked that, because I want to know how do you manage it, you know?
Yeah, and just because you've been through a hard thing doesn't mean, and you're overcoming it, doesn't mean they can't come back, and
That's right.
Your brain can invite those emotions. I mean, especially with trauma, trauma can be activated through an event, a picture, a song. I think it's important to be able to get some of those emotions out on a regular basis. And that's what helps me. So if I have a thought or a reminder of my wife, if I've talked about it and I've kind of let out some of that pressure, those negative thoughts aren't going to stay as them. And
yes.
I think the thing that makes sense to me is if I think of it kind of like a bank account. I know this sounds silly, but a bank account, you have to make deposits in.
Yes.
So when you have withdrawals for like unexpected expenses and bills and things that just come up. And I think this is like dealing with emotions. For me, I need to do some emotional daily deposits to build myself up, because I've been through some hard times that are going to naturally suck some of that emotion. So I need to make some daily deposits on a regular basis. And for me, that's like meditating, mindfulness, reading some scriptures and praying, daily affirmations, some form of exercise and walking. And that kind of has a sense of building me up, because I never know when an emotion or a thought or a feeling will come and suck some of those emotions. I remember a good example of this is, so I've been, my wife had been gone for a year, and I felt like I was in a really, really good spot. I was feeling better about myself. I was feeling uplifted. Now this is after 2 years. And then, things were going good at school. My routine was good. And then I get a call from my dad that says, we went to the doctor today and mom isn't doing very good. And it looks like she has cancer. And
Wow.
those moments we can't prepare for. But it wiped me out for a couple of days, and I went back into wanting to sleep and wanting to just not be around. But I noticed that because of the daily things I was doing, it helped me get through those and helped me pull out of those dark spots quicker than later. And it was just going back to those basic things to kind of build me up and making those deposits on a regular basis. And that has helped me keep myself busy so those dark thoughts and those emotions don't just sit there and just marinate and just dwell in my head. I'm filling myself up with positives and good things so that they can just become diluted. And I can fill up with things that I want, and I can still feel emotions, but they don't stick. I'm able to feel it and kind of ride out the emotion. And I feel like that has been a really good process of dealing with those dark and negative spots. If I continue to build myself on a regular basis, and it's work. There's days I don't want to do it, but I feel like I need to do some kind of form of those posits because I never know when I'm going to get a phone call. I never know when the death anniversary of my wife is going to just rock me. I don't want to wait. I don't want to know because I don't want to get in a spot where I'm putting back on that mask because I'm in such a happier, different place. So I'm committed to doing stuff on a regular basis to keep those dark thoughts away from my emotions and from my head.
How has this this whole entire situation, Jason, affected your relationship with God?
At the beginning, like when we first got the diagnosis, I was angry. I was upset. I was frustrated. I had resentments towards God. Again, I felt like I was living a good life and helping people in recovery, helping people in my neighborhood, and just living a good life. And I distanced myself from God because of how hard that was. And I just remember feeling more alone and thinking like, how am I going to do this by myself? And then I guess every treatment, I began to change the way I prayed. I began to pray differently, saying, well, if this is our journey, what do I need to learn from this? I didn't pray like, why did you do this to us? And why? I began to pray and say, what do I need to learn from this? How do I need to grow? And that began to allow my communication with God to change. And He began to open up my eyes of what I needed to learn and grow and who I needed to be around and who I needed to teach through this experience. And my relationship with God began to get closer because we were walking the path together rather than God walking the path. And I'm just like sitting there with my arms folded, sitting on the ground saying, I'm not going. like a little 2-year-old. We were walking together and He was able to show me what I'm learning and how I'm growing, and it becomes such a valuable experience. And whenever things are hard, I would be able to come back and say, what do I need to learn from this? How can I grow? And again, my cancer has enhanced my relationship with God because I'm closer. He knows me. He understands me. He knows who I can become. And today I'm grateful that God has given me this challenge and this trial in my life because I have become the person that God wants me to be. I haven't always felt that way, but today, because of who I've met the experiences that I've had, the person I am now. And we talked about how I show up as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I am such a different and amazing person because of what God has allowed me to go through. And I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't have gone through cancer treatment and losing my wife today. And I'm grateful for my trial. I know that sounds a weird phrase, but
Yeah.
I am truly grateful for the trial I had to go through and the trials I go through today, because it helps me become the person I'm meant to be. And it helps me to get in front of people that need my help,
Yeah.
that need some support, or someone saying, it sucks, I've been there, let's do this together. And without my experience, I'm not able to do that. So I could tell you experience after experience of people that have been directly placed in my life, and that I can help because of what I've been through. And it's incredible. Like I I'm just amazed by who I get to help today because of what I've been through.
So you have then learned to reconcile with what the physician said when he said, Jason, cancer has a way of enhancing.
Yeah.
So you reconcile.
I can celebrate that phrase finally.
I think from listening to you and getting a chance to observe your energy, I know that this particular journey, and I tell people the journey is designed for you to truly find who you are, find and locate your gift, because all of us came here with this gift. And then we ought to be living from that gift. We ought to serve. We are now serving with such conviction. The Bible makes a statement in Corinthians. It says that God, we are able to comfort others with the comfort that God has given to us. And so being in that profession, you have gotten to a space now that you can truly serve those that are in pain, because God has walked you through. He has taught you about the team. He's taught you about the mask, letting go of it. And many of those people, Jason, have been programmed to wear the mask. And then they come and they sit before you, and you have been programming yourself to unmask. And so that conversation must be a beautiful one to bring them to the space that it's okay. You can, having that conversation with you, it's a trust value. And so people are able to trust you to take off the mask so that they can heal. You can speak to their pain and bring them out of their pain. This has been, Jason, such a beautiful conversation. Those that have been listening to us, I want you guys to get in touch with him. Jason, I have a question to ask. I know that you work, that cancer was a big part of your family. Do you currently work with programs that will assist someone and guide them and bring them into the space where they can get help, where you can help, and all of those different type things? Because this, one of my good friends, just passed a few days ago from cancer. I have several of my friends that are in this state that are, just got news. I got another friend a few days ago, I got word that she just found out that she has cancer. So there's this, disease is out there and ravishing life. Do you, for those that are listening, how can they get help if you can guide them there? Because there's tons of people out there, Jason, that will be listening that are in similar situation that you can maybe, usher them in the direction to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is could be another podcast, but, through my journey, it's inspired me to help people. And, today I've created a company called Giving Sunshine. And what we do is we offer support for those that are grieving, those have been diagnosed with cancer. those that are dealing with depression and anxiety. And the way that we help people is we've created sunshine boxes that you can buy for yourself to help you walk through that journey. Or when you have someone that is going through a hard time, you can purchase a box and send that to them. Mm-hmm. And it has the tools to be able to help them get them out of that difficult spot. When I lost my wife, I found really limited resources to help. So with me and my partner, Wyatt, we sat down and took my therapy experience and my journey, and we've created a box of healing tools to help you through those difficult spots. So people can get on givingsunshine.com, and you can email me, jason@givingsunshine.com, and we can help you get through those difficult spots that can be so hard and difficult. Again, no one should suffer alone. That's kind of our mantra. And that's why these tools are available to help people. We've done a lot of the work, tools to be able to, so you don't have to sit for a long period of time. It helps you walk through the process. So that's one thing I'm proud of that has enhanced my life is I'm able to provide tools to help people through grief, through cancer, and through that mental illness of depression and anxiety, Ken.
That's awesome. That's why I wanted for you to bring that out. We will provide you guys with all of the links as well so that you can get to Jason. He has several care packages out there, the cancer support package, the general sunshine package, loss of love, one starter support. So he has several of them. And I want you guys to go to his site and buy those packages, those care packages that he has, and offer them to other people, because I'm going to send them to a couple of people that I know, Jason. So that's why I wanted you to mention that so that it's people are aware of it. And again, Jason, I want to thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. I do appreciate you coming by, sir, and sharing your journey. All of you that are in the space that Jason has been, contact this man. Why? Because he has been through it. He has learned about empathy. He has learned about forgiveness. He has learned about all of these beautiful things that you hear people talk about, but some of them don't know anything about it. But from talking to Jason, you can sense it. You can feel that energy. And so I want you guys to call him so that he can comfort you with the same comfort that he received from his God, his friends, his family, so that he can help you to move through your dark space. Jason, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ken. You're doing a great thing. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.